there, this is Tata, and welcome to the TNA Post Show. It is Thursday, April 24, 2025, and tonight I'll be talking about TNA Impact. Now, Bert is not here as he is feeling ill. He's a little under the weather, so I'm doing this solo tonight. So, this week's TNA Impact was a go-home show to Rebellion. As we all know, Rebellion is live this Saturday at the USC Gallen Center here in LA, which your girl will be going to, and I think Bert's also going to. So we'll both be there this Sunday at Rebellion. All right. So tonight's Impact kicked off with the system JDC and Moose versus Ace Austin and Trey Miguel. You guys remember Zachary Wentz got taken out by JDC and Eddie Edwards. So at Unbreakable. And so this match I thought was a good match. One of the things that I noticed and that commentary pointed out is that Moose has the X Division title on his pants. He literally had an image of the X Division title on his pants. Because he is the X Division champion. So it's no surprise that the system was victorious. They do have the numbers game on Trey Miguel and Ace Austin. As we know, Chris Big was hurt at Bound for Glory last year, and it was really special to see him at Unbreakable. He is sorely missed, but I'm glad to see he's doing well. So like I said, the system is victorious after Lish causes a distraction and JDC hits Trey Miguel with a low blow. Brian Myers comes out and hits Ace Austin with the roster cut. And also Eddie Edwards gets involved in this. So the system is victorious. The system is standing tall. It seems like the system has taken a new leash on life since Eddie Edwards wanted everybody to get on the same page and be victorious here, yet Moose is the only one with championship gold here. So with Bound for Glory rumored to be taking place in Boston, it would make things interesting to see if Eddie Edwards eventually defects from the system and goes off and does his own thing. So we'll see. So we get a Masha Slamovich segment. She's talking about how 10 years of sacrifices led her to having to beat her best friend. Obviously, she's talking about Jordynne Grace. Masha Slamovich defeating Jordynne Grace to take that knockouts title off of her. You guys remember that. She talks about how she's been met with hater after hater, doubter after doubter, and that Tessa Blanchard beat up an 80-year-old man. Of course, she's referring to her trainer that Tessa Blanchard attacked while in New York. Tommy Dreamer, I don't know why Tommy Dreamer wasn't part of this, but he interrupts and says he's proud of her. I guess it's because he knew her trainer as well, which is why he was included on this. But he tells Masha Slamovich to never doubt herself. So I actually really like this segment. I'm hoping Masha wins at Rebellion, but we'll see. Well, I'll talk more about that when I get into predictions. So we get a Mike Santana segment, and this whole entire feud with Mustafa Ali has been Mike Santana doing this whole these rehab segments, which if you're an addict, rehab and the 12-step process and program. So you guys remember Order 4 kidnapped Mike Santana's friend, and Mustafa Ali basically guilt him back into drinking. So he comes out talking about how he's back at square one. And Mike Santana's talking about the strength and the people who've made the choices to turn around and stop running. And, he brings about how a man once talked about hard times, obviously Dusty Rhodes. He talks about how Ali's the true addict because he's addicted to Mike Santana. And that Mustafa Ali is the obsessed over the fact that he can't control what is meant to be. And he asks, what is the definition of an addict? Someone who cannot admit they have a problem, which is the first step in the 12-step process. And this is a really good segment. I've actually really liked the feud between Mustafa Ali and Mike Santana. I cannot wait for that Falls Count Anywhere match. I'm glad the storyline is being done with respect. Santana has been honest about his journey. Glad TNA is being respectful with it. Yeah, that is true. This storyline is being done tastefully, as anybody out there who knows who is an addict or has been struggling with addiction. It's not it's a very tough thing to deal with, and the fact that TNA took on this and they're using it in the storyline, but it's done in a very respectful and tasteful way, I gotta give them props for that. And I'm sure Mike Santana agreed and signed off on the storyline, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. So he ends this by saying he's fighting all he knows at Rebellion, and he fights for his little girl and for every person who was nominated to the room. Obviously, talking about rehab. So we get an elegant brand segment, and like Heather's like terrified to call Ash because you guys remember last week she got herself and Ash in a 4-way match at Rebellion for those tag titles. So she was, because everybody was yelling, Lash Legend, Gigi Dolan. So they were all like just ganging up on her. So she ends up FaceTiming Ash. And Ash gets mathematical here, and she brings up how in a regular standard tag team match, they have a 50% chance of winning, but in a 4-way, they only have a 25% chance of winning, and they don't even have to get pinned to lose their tag titles. The personal concierge says that they will do everything in their power to avoid losing their titles, so this is going to be interesting. It really is. The question that we have, and I'll talk more about this in predictions, is are they going to lose the knockout tag titles? We'll see. So yeah, Jacy, Jayne versus Rosemary with Ariana Grace on commentary. Like Ariana Grace, I don't really watch NXT, but apparently she's got many best friends because she talks about how everyone is her best friend. I thought this was a really good match. Jacy Jayne is very talented, and Rosemary is just equally talented. Jacy Jayne is victorious after Rosemary spears Jasmine Nix, and Jacy Jayne uses the discus punch on Rosemary. Afterwards, like Fatal Influence just attacks Rosemary, and Lee Ying Lee and Xia Brookside come to her aid, and so Santana Morella comes out. It makes a 6 knockout tag match. Fatal Influence versus Lee Ying Lee, Xia Brookside, and Rosemary for Rebellion. Should be a fun match. So with the Hardy compound, as we all know, at Sacrifice, Nick Nemeth was a part of the 10-man tag steel cage match, and at the end, him and his brother Ryan attacked Matt and Jeff, and they made it know that they want those TNA tag titles. Where at Rebellion, we're getting the Nemeth brothers versus the Hardys in the TNA tag titles, but last week to end the show, the Hardys invited the Nemeths to the Hardy compound. So this was kind of trippy and interesting. So I've never seen Willow. I've heard of Willow. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about Jeff Hardy's character. He was just like standing there with an umbrella. And then when they enter, like he quotes the famous Sixth Sense storyline, and then he like starts dancing. This is some trippy stuff, I will say. Jeff Hardy starts whacking Nick Nemeth with an umbrella. That spot with the truck was actually pretty cool. Matt Hardy was like committing murder here, drowning Ryan Nemeth in that pool. And Nick Nemeth goes into the house. He sees a tag title. You see Ryan Nemeth watching a movie featuring himself and some of the Hardy kids. I like the oh my god. I really like the part where Ryan confronts Goth Baby and he tells her he's taking those tag titles, and then like he becomes Goth himself and does a roast battle. This is trippy. But it ends with the Nemeths leaving with their tag titles. So foreshadowing perhaps, or is it the standard, like the person that stands tall usually loses? We have to wait and see. But I honestly really did like this Hardy compound segment. It was trippy, but it was pretty interesting. Speaking of backstage segment with Trey Miguel and Ace Austin, Trey Miguel's furious that the system attacked them and, took out Zachary Wentz. And I felt like I was watching a weird old episode of Legends of the Hidden Temple game show with this. No complaints, of course. I heard of that game show. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. So obviously they can't call Zachary Wentz for backup. They can't contact Chris Bay. So who do they call? They call X-Pac, Sean Waltman. And it seems like maybe we might get a match with Sean Waltman, Ace Austin, Trey Miguel, and the system. So should be. Well, with Moose being in that Ultimate X match, I could see them making a last-minute match, 3-3. So we'll see where that goes. We get Tessa Blanchard versus Misha Kate. I don't know much about Misha Kate. I've never heard of her. This is the first time I'm seeing her. So if anybody knows anything about Misha Kate, let me know in the live chat in the comment section down below. But this was obviously, I don't want to say an enhancement match, but this match was pretty much for Tessa Blanchard. She won after she hit the Magnum in the butt, so obviously sending a message to Masha Slamovich. Masha Slamovich came out and attacked Tessa and hit her with a steel plow. We get an interesting segment between Steve Maclin. Now, if you guys don't know, since Steve Maclin and Eric Young were teaming up, they were in a tag team, and Steve Maclin, as you know, is not the most trusting guy, and he actually trusted Eric Young. Unfortunately, when Josh Alexander left TNA, Eric Young took over the leadership for the Northern Armory, and ever since then, Eric Young has been trying to get Steve Maclin to join him in the Northern Armory, but Steve Maclin really doesn't want to. He tells him he doesn't need their help, he doesn't need backup. So, it's just a setting where, Steve Maclin is by a fireplace and he's, scribbling in a notebook or something. And Eric Young approaches him and he tells him, if it wasn't going to be him, he wanted Eric Young. And Eric Young says the same thing. If it wasn't going to be him, he wanted Steve Maclin to win that international title. And Eric Young tells Steve Maclin think about how things different would be if he actually had backup. And he said their paths are crossing again on Sunday. And Eric Young makes it very clear that this is the last time he was offering Steve Maclin backup. Santino made a 6-man. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I didn't get that memo. I didn't see that. He made a 6-man tag for Sunday the Rascals and Ace Austin with Sean Waltman versus the System with Alicia Edwards. The System is Brian Myers. It may make sense because Moose is in the Ultimate X match. So we actually have 10 matches here then. Okay. So Eric Young picks up that notebook with that Maclin was writing and tosses it into fire. So this is an interesting segment because I feel like, I don't think Steve Maclin is going to join the Northern Armory, but I'm very curious to see where this goes. I don't think he's going to join them. And Steve Maclin, I think, is doing a really good job as a babyface. I think he's one of a handful of wrestlers that can do both babyface and heel. Don't get me wrong, I like heel Steve Maclin, but I'm also liking face Steve Maclin. I want to know what Steve Maclin does with this international title. It's the first title defense, and I'll get more into this in predictions. But I definitely think he should retain. That's just my opinion. So the main event ends up being Joe Hendry and Elijah versus All Ego Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian here. Fun match, really. This was a fun match. I don't know, but a lot of you guys may not be fans of Elijah. I personally like Elijah, and I walk with Elijah. But I'm starting to think that Joe Hendry is actually injured, but not to the extent that they make it out to be, because he does have that tape on his shoulder, and it would explain why it would be a triple threat match at Rebel instead of a one-on-one match. But I wonder if we're going to have a feud between Elijah and Joe Hendry. It seems like that's what they were going, but if Joe Hendry is injured, I think they might hold off on that. But anywho, this was a fun match. It seems like Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian towards the end could not get on the same page because Page tagged himself in and Frankie Kazarian did not want him tagging in. And then when Frankie tried to go to tag him in, Ethan Page refused to tag him in. So this allowed Joe Hendry and Elijah to pick up the win. And Ethan Page does jumping jacks on the ramp. And that is how tonight's Impact ends. So next week, live from UC Irvine in Irvine, California, TNA will have a special start time of 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So with next week's show, I don't know, depending on Bert's schedule, we might either do it live that day or we might just do it the next day, but we'll let you guys know. If Joe is hurt, that would explain why his surprise match at WrestleMania Night 2 was only 3 minutes. Fightful reported TNA allegedly hated it was 3 minutes, but happy for Joe. So yeah, before we move on to predictions, I just want to say, I'm so happy for Joe Hendry. He got a WrestleMania match against Randy Orton. And yes, that would explain why he only had a 3-minute match at WrestleMania, especially if he is hurt. Just the fact, I had a tear in my eye. I was so happy for Joe Hendry. Just the fact that all of us who watched TNA watched his rise from just, an unknown. Hi, Terrence. From an unknown to where he is now. It's just been an incredible journey just to watch him grow to where he is now and just to see the rise of Joe Hendry. I have to say, it's just Joe Hendry rules. Yeah. I like Joe Hendry right from the get-go. From the minute he came back to TNA, I thought he was hilarious. I thought his whole music videos and diss tracks were hilarious. But we have to give credit where credit is due. If it wasn't for AJ Francis and Joe Hendry's feud with First Class and that apology video that he did to AJ, I don't think Joe Hendry would have gone viral because he made other apology. I mean, he did dancing moves, he did stripper Kenny King King. He did Brian Myers, Ryan Nemeth, and pretty much the one that went viral was the apology to AJ Francis. I mean, he combined Creed Tire. I was there for that one. It was actually really fun. I have Jeremy's performance all on tape. And so happy for Joe. He became the first TNA star to work WrestleMania. I can see him going to WWE the first chance they have to go after him once his contract is done with TNA. Yeah, I can see that too, definitely. And like I said, Joe Hendry has the second best selling merch on WWE, only behind John Cena. Wow, really? Second best? That is incredible to see. And like I said, just to see where he is now, I mean, he went from being the digital media champion and just teaming with Yuya Uemura, which was short lived, unfortunately. Just to see how far he's grown in the last couple of years is just so heartwarming. Like I said, I had a little tear in my eye watching Joe, and I'm so happy for him. And then he went and was out on NXT the very next night. So, I definitely do think Joe Hendry's going to go to WWE once his contract with TNA is expired. So, but good to see for Joe. I'm so happy for him. I really am. All right, before I continue to predictions, I just want to remind everybody that this week's podcast is sponsored by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It is made of not psychedelics, but 4 powerful mushroom apigens. It has lion's mane, which increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easier to form new patterns and learn new things. Next time you're trying to learn that new move, it will actually stick in your head rather than forgetting it immediately. It has cordyceps, which includes VO2 max, blood flow, and overall endurance. It has veggie, which decreases stress. It has turkey tail, which boosts your immune system. And we all know y'all need that on those stinky ass gym mats. And on top of that, it has 12 grams of protein. Go to eatshroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. So yeah, so make sure you check out Shroom Bar. Alrighty, so now I'm going to get into predictions. As we all know, TNA Rebellion is this weekend. In no particular order, let's just go down this list. Moose versus Casey Navarro versus Leon Slater versus Matt Cardona versus El Hijo de Vikingo versus Sidney Akim for the Ultimate X. For the X Division Championship in an Ultimate X match. Honestly, I'm going to say Moose retains here. I think he retains. As much I would be happy if Leon Slater wins, but I think Moose retains. I think it would mean more for Leon Slater to take the belt off of Moose, but that's just me personally. Hey, if he wins Ultimate X and becomes the youngest X Division champion, I'll be happy. But I think Moose is retaining here. I really do. I think this is going to be a great match, great fun match. I cannot wait to see this in person. It's going to be great. So Elijah announced last week that he was going to be doing a Walk With Me Open Challenge. So who do you guys think is going to be who's going to answer his challenge? He said it could be anyone from any promotion, anyone. I want Leon Slater to win, but I agree. I can see Moose escaping. I would think this match would be the best way to get the title off Moose and make him look good. That is true. You do bring up a good point. And not to mention, Moose is afraid of heights, apparently. So I wonder how he's going to get up that thing to climb to get the title. It would be a good way to take the title off of Moose. But I still see him retaining here. Like I said, I would not be upset if Leon Slater wins. I definitely want Leon Slater to break the record. If he does not break the record at Rebellion, he has to break it at Slammiversary because he turns 21 in September and he cannot it'll be too late at Bound for Glory. So who do you guys think is going to answer Elijah's open challenge? This one is has me in a little bind because I really don't know. I'm trying to think of everybody who's like a free agent who is on the market who I can see Elijah's open challenge being No Mandar, who returns Tuesday on NXT with no one winning. Oh, okay, interesting. So you think it's gonna be someone from NXT? It could be someone from NXT. Could be someone that's a free agent. Who could it be? I don't know. Maybe it's gonna probably be someone from NXT. Who specifically? I don't know. I don't really watch NXT. Could this be the way in international star debuts? I do agree. There was rumors that TNA did sign a couple of international stars. We don't know who they are. The names have not been revealed. But this would be a good way to introduce one of the international stars. So, Fatal Influence. Okay, so next we get Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley, Jacy, Jayne, and Jasmine Nix versus Rosemary, Zaya Brookside, and Li Yingling in the 6-woman tag match. I gotta go with Rosemary, Zaya Brookside, and Li Yingling here. I think this is gonna be a good match. A Fatal Influence is definitely like a unit of Rosemary, Zaya Brookside, and Li Yingling aren't really much of a unit, so to speak, but I do think that they're gonna win here. Who do you think is going to win this match? Now, this is next match I'm kind of torn on. Mike Santana versus Mustafa Ali in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Kind of torn on this one. I agree. Li Yingling, Zaya Brooks, and Rosemary to win. Yeah. The reason why I'm torn is because I feel like Mike Santana is definitely going to challenge for that title at Slammiversary. Slammiversary is in July. We are 3 months away from that. And Mustafa Ali, I could see. This one is really hard because I do think Mike Santana is challenging and winning the world title at Slammiversary. But Mustafa Ali in Order 4, I don't know. Mustafa Ali is going to have Order 4. But Mike Santana did go through the entire system. So he went through the entire system. So I'm pretty sure he can go through the entire Order 4. That's what he did kidnap John Skyler. So I got to go with Mike Santana. Put the X Division title on Cedar at Slammiversary. Okay, yeah. Next, we get Ash by Elegance and okay, we get the Elegance brand versus the Metaphor Girls versus Spitfire versus Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley, a fatal 4-way tag match for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. Okay, I will say this. Yeah, Mike Santana, I think it leaves the arena and we get to see parts of it. This would actually be really, really cool if it does leave the arena because it is a Falls Count Anywhere match. Oh, but they're by USC, so it's kind of hard to describe. But if you guys are not familiar with the area, like we're close to Exposition Park, the Natural History Museum. There's literally a car dealer right across the street that has like Felix. I think Felix the cat on there. There's a Starbucks, a Target in that area. So I would be really, really curious to see how they would pull that off. Because that's not really like the most like suitable area. It's like a college. It's literally the colleges. So there's a lot of like stuff around there. So I'm really curious to see how that would play out. That would be really cool though. To see them leave the arena. So back to the Knockouts World tag titles. With this partnership with NXT, we have yet to crown an interpromotional champion. If there's a titles that we're gonna sacrifice, I'd say the Knockouts tag titles would be the ones to be sacrificed. Just because right now, as things stand, the Knockouts division and the Knockouts tag team division in TNA is not doing that good. Unfortunately, they have not, replenished the teams that they lost. I know they just hired Maggie Lee. I can see this being the first title from TNA that goes to NXT. I can see Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley as new champions. Oh, I personally would go for the Meta 4 girls, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, to make history here and become the first of WWE wrestlers, stars, to hold the Knockout Tag Team titles. Here, I think this is going to be the chance to become interpromotional. So I'm going to go with Meta 4 here. I don't know how the Elegance brand would retain this, but I could see them using some tricks here with Maggie Lee and stuff. So I'll be curious to see. I think this is gonna be an interesting match, but my pick is a Meta 4 girls. I think they'll take it. Next we get Steve Maclin versus Elegance for the international title. But this being the first title defense, I think Steve Maclin takes it. I think he takes it here. You can't, I mean, he just won that title. Like, there's no way you can take the title off of him yet. You want to establish that title, give him a decent title reign. So I see. Pick Steve Maclin to retain. Maybe Maggie joins the Elegance brand if they win. I remember Maggie teamed with Heather while she was on vacation. That is true. Steve Maclin's retains. It would be a joke if Eric won it 8 days after winning it. Exactly. We get the Hardys versus the Nemeths brothers in a brother versus brother tag team match of the TNA World Tag Team Championships. If not the Nemeth brothers, who? The fact that on the Go Home show they ran off with the tag titles kind of leads me to believe that they're not going to win, just because they always in wrestling they always do that. Like the person that stands tall at the end usually never wins. But who could possibly take those tag titles off the Hardys if not the Nemeths? Maybe Order 4? Who else? You know what? Let me see. So, this one's also hard too. Let me see. The Hardy Boys have had a great 6-month reign. I agree. If it's not the Nemeths, who I thought the Hardy Boys would have lost to an NXT team, right? I'm gonna go with the Nemeth brothers here, just because I feel like I said, who, if not the Nemeth brothers, who else? Personally, I would like the Great Hands to get a tag team title run, even if it's just a short run. Like, they win maybe at Summerversary, hold it for the, defend at a TNA Plus special and then maybe lose afterwards. But, that's just me personally, just because I do like the Great Hands. But, yeah, I think the Nemeth brothers should win this because I can't think of anybody else. I mean, maybe the Rascals, but Zachary Wentz is out, with Chris Bay also out. There goes the ABC. Hammerstone is no longer in TNA. I always would have said Hammer something. So, yeah, I picked the Nemeth brothers here. I think the Hardys have done a great job with the tag titles, but I think it's time they drop them. Next, we get Masha Slamovich versus Tessa Blanchard for the TNA Knockout title. I know some people don't like Tessa Blanchard and some people aren't happy with her return. Personally, when I started watching TNA, Tessa Blanchard was already out the door. So I didn't get to see much of Tessa Blanchard during her first TNA run. So I'm actually liking what she's doing in TNA right now. I think she's really living up. I think she's doing a really great job with her heel character. I think Masha should retain here. I think that she should have a pretty lengthy title reign here. I don't think Tessa Blanchard needs the title here. So I'm picking Masha. And then, as Joseph said earlier, there was to be a 6-man tag match. The Ace Austin, Trey, Miguel, and Sean Waltman versus a System. Oh, so wait, Zachary Wentz is back? With a System versus Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, and JDC. It feels like the fans hate Tessa, still hate her because she's enjoyed and grace to TNA. You mean NXT? I want Tessa to win, but I'm scared of a backlash. That's what I said. Watch it. Yeah, I think if Tessa wins, I think this would be a pretty much considerable amount of backlash. And for this match, because they have Sean Woman, I'm going to go with Ace Austin, the Rascals, and Sean Woman. Just because they have Sean Woman, I think they're going to definitely outnumber the system with that one. And last but certainly not least, a three-way match for the TNA World title. You guys all know that I believe in 252 pounds of pure motivation, the answer to all of life's problems. I like Joe Hendry. I really do. Like I mentioned earlier, I was really happy for him. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to retain here. I do not think that. Oh, Ace and Masha? Oh, okay, Zachary Wentz is back? Okay. I don't think he's going to retain. I think that had this just been a regular one-on-one match, Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page, for sure Joe Hendry would have retained. Which leads me to believe that Joe Hendry is really hurt because he wouldn't have made this a three-way match if Joe Hendry wasn't hurt. But I don't think he's walking out as world champion here. Even because we're in LA, and I think the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian, is definitely going to win the TNA world title here. He is definitely walking out of Rebellion as the TNA world champion. And like I said, had this been a one-on-one match, Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page, I do think Joe Hendry would have retained. However, I think Frankie Kazarian would have called his shot immediately after, and Joe Hendry would have still lost. But yeah, that I gotta pick Frankie Kazarian. There's no other. Like I said, if Joe Hendry's really hurt, this is a great way to take the title off of him. I don't think Ethan Page is winning. It's Frankie Kazarian. I agree. Frankie wins. I thought at first it was random that it was a triple threat, but adding Ethan made sense if the injury is real. We know Sunday either way. That is true. That is true. I don't think he's as hurt as it was said that he was hurt, but I do think he's hurt. He's hurt. That would explain again the 3-minute match with Randy Orton and why this is a 3-way match, because then this way Joe Hendry doesn't have to wrestle as much. And, Frankie could pin Ethan Page, and he doesn't necessarily have to pin Joe Hendry here. So, we'll see. But I think the ending shot would definitely be Frankie Kazarian with the TNA title in tow. And I think at Slammiversary, depending between what happens now and Slammiversary, I definitely think it's going to be your Slammiversary main event. I think it's going to be Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian for the TNA World title, with Mike Santana winning at Slammiversary in his home state of New York. So with that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continuous support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you can notify whenever me and Bert go live and whenever Body Sam goes live. Now, as far as Rebellion is concerned, both Bert and I will be at Rebellion. So we review Rebellion. It might be that same night, or it might be on Monday. I'm not entirely sure. I have to talk to Bert. But definitely give us a follow on Twitter or X at the _ or at Bert Maclin 11 so you guys can know what we're doing in terms of Rebellion. But if you want to see footage from Rebellion and photos, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Rangers of Wrestling, because I will be posting videos from Rebellion on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, if we don't see you guys on Sunday for Rebellion, we'll definitely see you guys Thursday or Friday for the fallout from Rebellion. Enjoy Rebellion, you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.